A very warm welcome to you from the Italian capital of Rome for the Rome 2025 Marathon. An exciting event in store, and it's already underway. We're going to join live coverage very, very soon as the computer plots your route through this historical city. There can be very few, if any, marathons run anywhere in the world that incorporate as many extraordinary feats of culture and architecture and history and art as the one that pounds through the streets of the Italian capital. Just a few of the highlights being outlined for you. In its current guise, the marathon has been run since 1995. There have been a few previous incarnations of it. We'll talk about a few of those as the race progresses, as we continue to admire this extraordinary city, the Colosseum, obviously. The Colosseum coming up on the left, and 28,000 runners taking part, some of them aiming for the winners' prizes, some of them, of course, running for charity or for personal pleasure. A personal best. The most important runners in the race, perhaps. There you've got a brief glimpse of him, Richard Whitehead, the outstanding Paralympic athlete, 48 years of age now, from the UK, who's taken part in 3 Paralympics, 2012, 16, 20, London, Rio, Tokyo, 2 golds, 2 silvers. Not expected, of course, to feature among the leading athletes in terms of a finishing time, but an extraordinary athlete nonetheless. The elite men include number 2, Giorgio Calcaterra, who's certainly not an elite athlete in terms of his marathon running times anymore, but is an extraordinary man, 53 years of age now, 3 times world champion in the ultra marathon, the 100-kilometer road race version. Quick glance at the elite women, the pre-race favourites, Betty Cecconi and Maregu Shegai. The course record here in Rome, 2 hours 6:24 for the men, 2 hours 22:52 for the women. Let's look at Piazza Navona with the extraordinary Fountain of the 4 Rivers in the middle there, designed by Bernini. And it's believed that his students did most of the work. Bernini designed it, but left most of the carving to the students. Hugely gifted students they were. It's a remarkable piece of work if you ever get the chance. I'm sure many of you have been to one of the world's major tourist destinations, but if you haven't, all roads lead here. At 8:05 local time, the first wave of athletes, the wheelchair athletes, were set off. The initial start for the elite runners and the bulk of the rest of the competitors was initially scheduled for 8 o'clock, but moved at the last minute to 8:15. They actually got underway at 8:20 local time. The men were to be pulled along by 2 young pacemakers, Leonard Bohr and Dominic Kiprono, both from Kenya. The women also likewise had 2 official pacemakers, although there was actually a small group of male athletes clustered around the women. Presumably the women's projected finishing time was somewhere close to their own personal bests, and they were using the group to pull themselves along. Jean-Baptiste Simukeka and Andrew Kiprutu-Kosgai were the 2 official pacemakers for the women. Very quickly, both races became about one leading group. For the men, initially there were 12 male athletes plus the 2 pacemakers. Dropped to 10, go back up to 11 for a while. Joining live and see what the status is in just a few moments. The leading women's group is very quickly reduced from the 9, let's say, elite athletes that started the race to 6. Remarkable shot of the pyramid, which people don't usually associate with Rome, but it is there. Caius Cestius. The old Aurelian walls. This is the leading female, or was in the opening exchanges. None of the female athletes had personal best better than the record here, so they'll have to go some to beat the record. The men's race in the early stages looked as though they were on course to beat a record. There's Daniele Neucci, who's the top Italian male in the race at the age of 39, personal best of 2 hours and 7:49. Came 11th in Seville last year when he set that. Twice been the Italian 5,000 metre champion, 3 times the Italian 10,000 metre champion. Excellent athlete. But he very quickly lost touch with the leading men's group, as in fact did the pre-race favourite Adela Deladou Mamot. She fell back pretty early on in the proceedings. The women at 10k, a couple of minutes outside the race record, but won't mind too much, I don't think. None of them were expected to beat the record. It's not particularly a fast course here in Rome. A few climbs, not major climbs in truth, but you know, there's a few hills and there's cobbled streets and twists and turns, so it's not one of the faster marathon routes. Around the 15.5k mark, we lost one of the 2 male pacemakers. Leonard Boer dropped away. Initially it looked as though he was going to try and keep pace with the group. It was just a temporary thing, but half a k or so later it was clear he was done, and he was out of the group and left pacemaking duties to his compatriot Dominic Kiprono. Here we are with live pictures of the leading group. Number 17 there at the end. Hamilton Sherop has had a bit of a race so far. He's lost touch with the group a couple of times and then had to force himself back into it, and then lost touch, forced himself back in, and he's still there, just hanging in at the back of the leading group of athletes. Early on in the race, around just 10 minutes into it, to be honest with you, Luke Kiprop, number 4, sped away from the pacemakers as though he was going to try and run the whole race by himself. Maybe he felt that things just weren't moving fast enough, although they were on course to beat the record. 10 minutes later, however, the group had reclaimed the ground. Kiprop is a taller figure with a slightly ungainly looking running style on the left of the picture there, behind the pacemaker Kiprono. Made an early break, but was reeled in by the group, which has lost a couple over the last 3-4 kilometres. It's going to be very interesting to see in this crucial stage of the race if any of these guys now will move on. Kiprono, the pacemaker, has been checking his watch at very regular intervals. There's often shouts from the guys on the motorcycles about how fast or slow they're going and where the turns are coming up, where the drinks are available. 22k into the race. Kenyans have won this race since 1995 15 times, Ethiopians 10 times. I'm talking about the men's race. 3 Italian victories, 1 from Morocco, which came in 2023. The last Italian win was in 2005, Alberico Checco. Men's race record, 2 2 hours 6:24. Was set last year by husband Ruto of Kenya. It's been East African dominance in the race, as is fairly customary these days for the marathon. Such extraordinary athletes from that part of the world. Every race, bar one since 2005, has been won by a Kenyan or Ethiopian. And here's Daniele Meucci, the leading Italian runner. He's trailing the leading group by a distance. He seems temporarily to have lost Della de Lumamo. Runs on a fetching lime shirt. It's the, on paper, the fastest man in the field. Mamo has a personal best of 2 hours 5:12, which he set coming second in Seville in 2022. No other man in the course has a personal best lower than the current course record here. Tiny logistical changes to the route to try and speed things up a little bit. Whether or not the men will manage to push through and create a record, we'll see. Going to enjoy the race nonetheless. And in fact, now they have slowed down a little. The first three splits, in fact, they were on course to beat the record. They've had a slower section here. They're now just on course to miss the record by 26 seconds. There's obviously a cash bonus for those that, or for the athlete that won the race, break the record. Eighth there, Frederick Kibi, 28-year-old Kenyan. Seventh in Frankfurt in 2023. Third, Hanover, 2023 as well. Does most of his running in Germany, where he's based. Personal best of 2 hours 8:09. Of the men in this leading group, number 4, Luke Kimprop, is the fastest on paper. Ran 2 hours 6 minutes 39 in Berlin last year, coming 12th in that race. That shows you the quality of the Berlin Marathon in terms of the athletes, that he ran that pretty quick time and wasn't even good enough to get in the top 10. He came 5th in the Hong Kong half marathon in January of this year, so he comes in reasonable form. Kiprono in the yellow headband is the pacemaker. We haven't been given any official indication as to when he's expected to drop out, but keep an eye on it. A group of 8 athletes, and just a few signs that Sherop and possibly Kiptu are going to lose touch again. So Kiptu, 33 years of age, wears the number 12 bib. So we flash back for a moment to the women's race, which is being led by Betty Chekwani in the pink bib. Chekwani won this marathon in 2023 in a time of 2:23:02. It was her personal best. At that stage, she was ranked in the top 150 or so female marathon runners in the world. She's slipped a little since then. Came 9th in Frankfurt at the end of last year. She's one of the fastest women in this particular race. And has been part of that leading group since the very beginning, as has Rebecca Kangogo in the red bib, and Maregu Shegai. To the men. That marathon, incidentally, would be run in Rome most years from the end of the 18th century until sometime towards the start of the 19th century, but most of those records and statistics have been lost, mislaid somewhere along the line. We do know that one race which took place in 1906 was won by Dorando Pietri, who came from the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy, and Pietri is perhaps best known for his victory and subsequent disqualification at the marathon in the London Olympics. In 1908, Pietri, well clear of the field, but collapsed to the ground several times in the closing stages, helped up by a couple of the race officials, managed to stagger over the line, having taken nearly 10 minutes to complete the final 500 metres. The American athlete Johnny Hayes was second. The Americans launched a complaint, unsurprisingly, and it was decided that the physical assistance Pietri had received was against the rules, and the gold went to the USA. But Pietri's determination to complete the race, despite the physical difficulty was in, won the hearts of the watching public in England, and none other than Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, great writer, Sherlock Holmes and Tarzan among others, he created, suggested to the Daily Mail that Pietri should be given a financial reward. A collection was made, and Doyle himself donated £5, which doesn't sound like much, but about £500 in today's money. Pietri became something of a celebrity, and apparently used the money he was donated to open a bakery, which is just about the most Italian thing you can imagine. Perhaps a pastry shop, a pasta shop would be the most Italian, or a pizzeria, but nonetheless, an Italian infatuation with food. Very well represented there by Mr. Pietri. The most illustrious marathon in Rome came in 1960. Ethiopian Abebe Bikila victorious, setting a new world record. And he ran the whole race barefoot. He ran barefoot as a personal preference, and I think he had some discussions with his coach. But the act was seen as symbolic by many African states at that time. Many of them were in the process of liberating themselves from colonialism. Ethiopia had been under Italian rule for a few years during World War II, although it was never colonized in the true sense of the word. Bikila became a hero of that resistance across Africa. And in 2010 there was quite a touching tribute to him here. The Kenyan athlete Siraj Jena, who was leading the race, took his running shoes off 500 metres or so from the finishing line and completed the race barefoot. One of Abebe Bikila's sons was in the crowd at the finish line to see that homage. Very nice moment. As we move to the women. Pulling along a little group. Kenyan athletes in fetching, matching blue gear. Just past that 25k mark for the athletes. Genon, you can see just on the outside of that group, Robert Genon, third in Buenos Aires 2023 at the time of 2 hours 10:16. Just on the shoulder of the pacemaker, or there were obviously two pacemakers before. The shoulder pretty much the whole way around. On the side here you can see Kiprop. On appearance really of Mammo. He's maybe the fastest man in the course. 6:39, which is setting early. I mentioned that one. Back to the women. Rebecca Kangogo in red bib. Seems to have taken over the lead temporarily.
No, sto proprio seduto per terra,
all'inizio ho fatto così. No, io per prima cosa vengo a farlo con voi, sopra di tutto. Perfetto, no, io devo dare all'ufficio stampa. Solid career, but now at the age of 32, it's quite achieved. She honest, she's had some trouble with injuries in fairness to her. Position here to at least get on the podium. There's 3 athletes now, broken clear of the rest. The way round 6. Runs the River Tiber, which runs more or less north to south through the city of Rome. A couple of men in the race have already competed here in Rome. Of Kenya came 7th last year. Lost touch with this main group. A bit further back. This table used by a few of the athletes. Kiprop has dropped off. There goes the pacemaker. Again on a little check around, I think perhaps to see if the pacemaker was just picking up water and was going to join them again. I think that's it. We've had a much quicker split here over the last 5k. They've picked up the pace again. Now, hang on to match the course record for 2 hours and 6 minutes 24, as you can see. We are into, if you like, the real part of the race, the tactics. Many of these guys have saved enough to push for the final 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes. Again on Kiprop, Kipsang, middle. Six athletes. Just get a little glimpse of the river. The water's quite high at the moment. There's been a lot of rain higher up in the hills. We're watching with the motorbikes in front and behind. I mentioned Rome marathons in the early part of the 19th century. The official one started again in 1982 and ran until 1991. Then there was a 3-year gap, and the organisation then shifted to the Italian Marathon Club. Took over in 1995. So for this Rome marathon, the official statistics start in 1995. But with the previous marathons, it's a little bit like the English football. The people running the TV stations and the pundits and everybody seems to sort of pretend that football in England didn't exist before 1992. Everything's in the Premier League, of course. True. Let us focus on the race in hand. The elite men and women running around the streets of this extraordinary city. You can just, at the top of the picture there, see the Stadio Olimpico, constructed for the 1960 Olympics, which Rome hosted, of course. The stadium shared by 2 big football clubs, Rome and Lazio. It's also used for other events, concerts and rugby. The Six Nations for a while now. Great success. The team seems to be improving again, which is good. Nice to have a competitive Six Nations. To the Italian Forum, the Foro Italico. On the right-hand side, you can see the tennis courts used for the Italian Open. Traditionally a kind of warm-up tournament for the French Open, which is one of the majors. There we go, some facts. Built between 1928 and 1938, named after Mussolini. It's been renamed since then, surprisingly. 1960 Olympic Games, and I've already mentioned the marathon victory there of Abebe Bikila, who went on to defend his crown in 1964 in Tokyo. Broke the world record again there. Geno and Kiprop lead the men's race. Moving along, a little group of 4 or 5 athletes behind them. Sharop seems to have managed to drag himself back to the main group again. A really adventurous race. The Kenyan, who came 4th in Mersin in 2023. 1990, yeah, the 1990 World Cup final. Disappointing game, wasn't it? West Germany versus Argentina. 1-0, Germany winning on a penalty. Terrible match. The running track, or at least around the side of the running track, not going to be on the track itself. Great shot, really, as they come around the curve. Robert Ngeno. It's the men's race. Kiprop Sang there as well.
Allora, questo va bene. Sì.
Very, very close to the finishing line, so you may get a little bit of the sound from around me bleeding into what you're hearing. It's not too much. We'll do our best to keep it to a minimum. Luke Kiprop has taken over the lead with a little group, and indeed Hamilton Sharop, number 17, has forced his way back into contention. I think that's the third, maybe the fourth time that he's lost touch with the leading group and then dragged himself back. He's using a lot of energy. Interesting to see how much he's saved for the remaining, 40 minutes, just over. As the athletes come back towards the Tevere, towards the River Tiber. Chasing. They're a couple of minutes behind at this point. All is not lost, but they'll have to go some to catch the leading group at this point, you would imagine. Again, leading the race, looks pretty comfortable, as does Kiprop with that slightly more ungainly style, but he doesn't seem to be blowing. Running within himself at the moment. Kibi is there, the number 8, Kogo, the number 9, Kiptu. And number 12, Samuel Kiptu, wearing number 12 of Kenya. Ran his personal best here last year, funnily enough. 2 hours, 9 minutes, 58 seconds, came 6th. And he won the Tallinn Marathon last year in a time of 2 hours, 13:48. I think 2 hours, 13:48 would be good enough to win here again this year, but he's in that leading group. Let's hope we're set for an exciting finale. You can just see from the shot as they move across Ponte Milvio, that must be. Yeah, Ponte Milvio, that Sherop is just in danger of losing out again with the rest of the group. Ponte Milvio, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, as it's known in English, in 312 AD. The image of a fiery cross appeared to the Emperor Constantine, according to Catholic tradition. Following victory, after Christianity was declared to be the official religion of the Roman Empire, helping to ensure the spread of Christianity through Europe and the territories that Rome possessed at that time. In the women's race, statistically, Ethiopia leads, 11 wins. Kenya and Italy have both recorded 6 victories, 3 for Russia, 1 each for Estonia, Ukraine and Algeria. So it's been a little bit more international in the women's section. The 6 home winners, let's call them, the Italians, all came within a 7-year period. Franca Fiacconi, Laura Viceconte, Maria Guida, Maria Cocchetti, Gloria Marconi, Ornella Ferrara. Both Fiacconi, the first of those, and Ferrara, the last of those, set new course records in the process of their victories. The record of Ornella Ferrara just lasted a couple of years, though, beaten in 2006 by Titania Chladia of Ukraine. Current record in the women's race is 2:22.52. The leading female athlete, Rebecca Kangogo, is outside of that time. We seem to have lost Lilian Jebatok, who was part of the leading group for a very, very long time. She seems to have gone by the wayside. We get a shot of Daniele Meucci. Now that's the Ponte Milvio he's running across. You can see the little stall set up for the football. I didn't actually check, but I guess Roma are playing at home today. Maybe later this evening. So he's overtaking Tiongik. So now one of the chasers. Officially, he's certainly on course to be the first Italian to cross the finishing line. Well clear. Meucci, bronze at the European Championships in the 2014 marathon. 39 years of age now, but still a very solid athlete. Produced 2 hours 7:49 in Seville last year, coming 11th. It's a good marathon, that one. Go some to catch the leaders, but nonetheless, on course for a solid performance. Meucci again still in front, but unable to shake off the pack behind him. Kibi is in the white bib. Closest to the picture now, there he is, 28-year-old from Kenya. Sherop, back of that group. Doesn't look to be in any difficulty, but he does keep losing touch. Let's have a Kipsang there in the middle of the picture. 6, Brian Kipsang, came second here in Rome last year in a time of 2 hours 7:56. That was his personal best. Came 5th in Toronto towards the end of last year. So he comes in some form. And he's been with that leading pack since the beginning. And a lot of home interest, of course, in Mauchi. Trying to close down on the athlete in front of him, which I think is David Tumot in the red bib. Can't quite get a look at his number, but I'm pretty sure it's David Tumot, 36-year-old Kenyan, who won the Singapore Marathon a couple of years back. The Rome Marathon is sometimes used by promising marathon runners to test their skills before they step up to the bigger, let's be honest, more well rewarded financially marathon races. The three leading female athletes being pulled along by their pacemakers. We've lost some of the other male athletes. I'm not sure whether they've moved on faster or have dropped back, but number 1, 2 and 3 in the women's race right now, they've pushed ahead of their competition by a fair distance. So unless something dramatic happens in the women's race, we're probably looking at the 3 who will stand on the podium in a little while. The fascination, of course, lies in working out and watching and discovering what the order will be. I mentioned the women's race record, which was set by Alemu Mgetu in 2019. She went on to place on the podium in the London Marathon in 2022 and 2023, and she finished 4th last year. She won the Valencia Marathon at the end of last year. She's become a real force in women's marathon running. In the men's race, Amos Kiprutu won here in 2016. Went on to a bronze medal in the World Championships in Doha in 2019. Won the London Marathon in 2022. F8 there in the blue vest is Selam Jebrefente, 22-year-old Ethiopian athlete who ran a personal best of 2 hours 30:30 in Daegu in 2023. She's doing very well to keep up with Kangogo, who is on paper at least 5 minutes faster than she is. Doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But it makes a big difference at this elite level of sport. Coming into the Roman Forum as we, the Foro Italico, I beg your pardon, as we come now back to the men, who again have slipped a little in the pace. It has got a little colder, it's got a little windier. It's a nice bright start to the morning, but it's overcast. It's not. There's enough clouds around. The sun is out, more or less. Kip saying Kibi, kind of symbolically Sharop. Yeah. He hangs in. Fantastically won this race. It will be one of the performances of the season. Scrambling to keep in touch with the leading athletes most of the way round. Has taken over the lead from Ngeno. Casual fan is perhaps sometimes surprised that the athletes exchange quite a lot of information during the race, checking watches and chatting about where drinks are, and my turn to lead, your turn, why don't you take over for a bit. The competition, of course, is fierce. Here is Daniele Meucci, and he has caught up to the shoulder of David Tumo. He's some distance behind the leading pack, but still going strong. Fascinating, isn't it? A different style again. He looks much more centered and self-controlled versus Kiprop, whose right arm almost drags him forward. It's a more gamey style, but it's very effective. He's the quickest man in the course, on the course in that group. Adela Ladou Mamo on paper was the fastest, 25-year-old Ethiopian, but he lost touch almost immediately in the leading group. I don't know whether he's carrying an injury or just mistimed his training. Into it was the pre-race favourite, but has been nowhere near. It's up to these guys. Geno, Kiprop, Kibi, Kiptu. To the women's race. We seem to have lost Rebecca Kangogo. Two pacemakers and two women, and yeah, and I think it's difficult to see exactly because of the distance we are using the drone shot, but it looks to me as though it's two pacemakers and two female athletes. Kangogo is a little bit further behind on the bridge. You can see her by herself. To get a closer look at the leading women, but we may do that in a moment as they come across Ponte Milvio. It became very popular here to attach locks to the bridge following a popular Italian novel and film. The pacemaker indicating where they need to go if they want water. Ciacconi. Salam Gebre Fente, two racers here. Ciacconi, who won in 2023, to become only the third woman to win this race on more than one occasion. In fact, there have been two women who've won the race 3 years in a row. So she's not going to be able to match that, at least not yet. She didn't win last year. There have been some excellent performances in the women's race. Fairwat Dado of Ethiopia won here in 2009, 10 and 11. And Ramantuza, also of Ethiopia, won in 2016, 17 and 18. So Ciacconi to join that little list as a multiple winner of the race, albeit with the gap in the middle. It's a more energetic running style she has than her rival there, isn't it? Elegant check of the watch from Gebre Fente. Okay, here's the I've just mentioned that since a few years somebody needed to double check the English translation on that. They were removed, a lot of the padlocks were removed. They started to pull down one of the lampposts. They were so heavy, there were so many of them on there. Cepkwani and Cebrefente confirmed, of course, as number 1 and 2 in the women's race at the moment. Just trying to see who the female athlete, you can just see in the distance. Can't even make out the colour of the bib. It may be Lilian Yebertok, maybe Rebecca Kangogo, but we'll perhaps try and establish that for you while we push back to the men's race and these leading 7 athletes. Again, I'm still pulling them along. Kiprop had dropped back slightly to grab a drink. Most of the others ignored that drinks break. Kiprop, you can see on the outside, the left as you're looking at the screen, just working a little harder to get back to the front. Kiprop, remember, made a break for it very, very early on. Just 10 minutes into the race, he sprinted away from the 2 pacemakers and the rest of the leading men's group. Led the race by himself for 10 minutes. Eventually the group ate up the ground between them and him. Since then he's been there or thereabouts. It was an odd move. It was difficult to establish what he was trying to do because they were moving at a decent pace. Perhaps just felt that he might burn 1 or 2 of his rivals off if he sprinted and really picked up the pace in those opening exchanges. Which one of these men has the finish in him? Been running for an hour 44 minutes, close enough to an hour and 44 minutes. Just over 20 to go as the wind continues to pick up, and it may start to rain soon. The clouds have gone a little grey. Spring in Rome can be a glorious time, it really can, but it can also be a little unpredictable in terms of the weather. What started as a lovely, fresh spring morning with the sun shining has gone a little overcast. Hopefully the leading athletes will be able to complete the race before the rain comes down, if it's going to come down, but I'm not sure about the fun runners. Most people will be on the course if there is going to be a downpour. Preparations underway here at the finishing line. 20 minutes or so to go before we start to get these guys coming in. Confirmation on the screen of the PB of Robert Ngeno. Came 2nd in Stockholm last year. Managed to beat his personal best, but solid athlete. Looks comfortable as well, has done since the beginning. Very, very tidy, economical style he's got. Just short, steady steps. Checking where his rivals are. Kipsang's on his right. Kibi over his left shoulder in the white bib. Kiprop has dropped a little further back temporarily, but is still very much part of that group. Split screen shows us the split screen shows us the leaders in both races, and it's still Cepkwani and Cebrefente in the women's race. We're essentially inside the final 20 minutes or so of the race, and now these guys all know one of them is going to win, one of them is going to be second, one third, and the others are going to miss out on the podium. There's prize money for the top 8. There's a bonus for the winner if he can beat the record. Which one of them has what it takes to either push away from the others or just to hang in there long enough to go for a quick finish over the final, whatever it might be, 400, 500, 600 meters. Does any of them fancy striking out on his own? Kip to Sherop at the back of the group. Sherop where he's been for most of the race. We lose the pictures temporarily and move to a beauty shot. Roman life attempting to carry on as close to normal as possible, if you can describe Rome as a normal city. Not sure you can. Certainly not in terms of traffic. Extraordinary place. Under the flyovers, merging out into the light the other side. It's a slightly greyer light than it was at the start of the race. Now leading male athletes. Just a few signs that Luke Kiprop, who's been leading at times, just struggling a little there. Looks to be flailing the arms a tad more than he was earlier in the race. Just wonder if he's done. He's the man, remember, who early on in the race made a break for it by himself and was reeled in by the group 10, 12 minutes or so later. Just wonder if that affected his levels of stamina. Right now, it's number 6, Brian Kipsang, alongside number 15, Robert Ngeno. Kipsang came second here last year, knows the course. We're moving further away from the record, but perhaps that's not the main priority right now. It's been an erratic race, started very quick, and it's slowed down, it's become more tactical. Number 8, Frederick Kibi, 28-year-old from Kenya. So just temporarily there, right onto the shoulder of Kipsang. Kibi in the white vest, most of his compatriots in the kind of purple. Kiptu and Kiprop, who's definitely working harder than he was earlier in the race. That's perhaps understandable, but he looks to be struggling a little to me. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep up with the group. So interestingly, if you're looking at the personal bests, Mamo, the fastest man in the race, has been nowhere near it. And Kiprop, the fastest remaining man, part of the leading group for so long, looks to be struggling a little bit. So we might get a surprise winner here. Sherop again, just losing touch, but don't rule him out. He's lost touch 3 or 4 times with that leading group and managed to haul himself back up with them. Pace just looks to have quickened a little as we come into the closing stages. Here's Piazza del Popolo. And you may get some of the announcements of the finishing line here where I'm sat, just leaking into the microphone. Hopefully not too distracting. Not too distracting for you. It's a pain in the backside for me, but hopefully you can't hear it or can barely hear it. Piazza del Popolo, the Egyptian obelisk in the middle. One of a number that are dotted around the city, and yes, it was brought from Egypt. Remarkable what you can do when you've got thousands of slaves, isn't it? Kipsang leads the way. 30 years of age, 5th in Toronto in October last year, so came into the race in decent form, came 2nd here last year, so knows the course, knows what to expect, knows perhaps from experience when he can afford to push a little faster, push a little harder, and he's now leading the race. Kibi, Kogo and Ngeno may have pulled away from the other athletes. Definitely Kiprop has lost touch. Joshua Kogo, 37 years of age. Came 4th in Vienna in 2023, where he ran his PB. Came 4th in Mumbai last year and 3rd in Prague last year. Can he go 1 or 2 places better? He's the middle one of the 3 men wearing the rather fetching purple. Kipsang, Ngeno, Kibi and Kogo. And Sherop and Kiprop have lost touch, temporarily at least. As we move, we're just past 37, coming up to 37.5 kilometers as they hit the cobbled streets. A little bit more punishing to run on the San Pietrini, as they're known in Italian, the cobbles. The Piazza di Spagna. And we have the famous Spanish steps, named after the Spanish, with the Spanish embassy is next door basically. Spanish steps you can see just coming up on the left. And the Barcacha, the ugly boat. And the little fountain at the bottom, which is reputedly had some input from Bernini. He was a student. Ngeno leads, Kipsang, Kogo, Kibi just starting to lose touch with these 3 now. Kibi in the white vest. There's Sherop, who's still chasing. And Kiprop behind him, I'm pretty sure it is. You can just see him in the purple vest. So Kiprop, who was leader early on, now has an extraordinary amount of work to do if he's going to get himself back into this. Pounding down the pebbles as we move towards, well, we've just gone past 1 hour and 55. Just over 10 minutes to go in the men's race. And a group of 3 are clear. And here, for the first time in a while actually, we move back to the women. And Salem Gebrefente is leading from Betty Chepkwony. Chepkwony just a little, just losing a little bit of ground. Gebrefente seems to be moving very nicely. Her personal best wouldn't necessarily have suggested she was among the favourites, but so far she's the leading contender. Chepkwony, who has won here, remember, 2023, she was the champion in her personal best of 2:23.02, so 7.5 minutes faster than her rival on paper, but it's not run on paper, is it? Selam Gebrefente, the 22-year-old, so far looking very, very good. Confirmation of her personal best, which was set in Korea. She came 7th in that race. And Ngeno has tried to pull away. This is perhaps the big moment. Does he have the finish in him. Came third in Buenos Aires in 2023, his personal best. And he's trying to put a little bit of distance between him and his rivals, Kogo and Kipsang. He's definitely up the pace. The two behind him, blowing a little. Got to be hoping that perhaps Ngeno, who's gone a little early, can reel him back in. Maybe his Kogo, the number 9. And Kibi as well in the white vest, number 8. This is the man they're all chasing. He's been part of that leading group since the beginning. He's bided his time. With a couple of kilometers to go, really, which is a handful, 6-7 minutes, maybe a little bit more, maybe 8-9 minutes of race time left. He's decided to make his move. And he doesn't look too troubled. Checking behind him, obviously, has to check over the shoulder. And he's got a little bit of distance between himself and the second-placed athlete. Can he maintain that? We're in for an exciting finish here in the Italian capital. Checking his watch. I wonder sometimes if it's not just a little tick as much as a genuine attempt to check the watch. He must know he's nowhere near the record. It's really just about seeing off the opposition. Maybe just checking the split time for the last kilometre or so. Maybe had in his mind all the time that would be the point he would make a push, as an idea of how fast he wants to complete the next kilometre, the kilometre after that. He'll stay within his targets. This is where the months and years of training start to kick in. We're going to look at Frederick Kibi, who led temporarily, although it was very temporary. Part of the leading group, but now he's one of the chasers, and the men have been split. Joshua Kogo, number 9, in front of him. And we're coming up to the 2 hours mark, and he's getting plenty of encouragement from supporters on the sidelines. Vai, go, go is the general shout from people you could probably lip read. As he moves back across Piazza Navona. The fountain of the 4 rivers in the middle there. And he's managed to lengthen the gap between him and the second-placed athlete. It was 20 meters or so. It's definitely a little more than that now. It's going to be a tight race for second, third, and fourth. You can see, you might just be able to see 3 athletes in pretty close proximity to each other. They may be battling for silver, bronze, and fourth. But they'll have to go some now to catch Robert Ngeno. Looks to have timed his push forward very, very well. He's got to keep going for another 5 minutes or so. Plenty of encouragement continues as we move through the streets of the historic centre of Rome, just round the corner from Piazza Navona. Places like Campo de Fiori and the Pantheon, all within a very short walking distance of each other, but Ngeno won't care too much about the history and culture. It's about winning this race. And here are the three behind him. Kipsang is in second place, number 6. He's being chased by Kogo and Kibi. He doesn't look to have much left, does he, Kipsang? Whereas Ngeno here seems to be moving very efficiently. A couple of kilometres until the end for the male runners, the leading male runners, that is, I'm sure. 15,000 or so, got a long way to go just yet, but the leading athlete is on his way. And Kipsang has been overtaken, and Kogo has now moved into second place. We thought that Kipsang was blowing a little. The teeth are grinding, the teeth are grimacing. Doesn't have enough to make a charge. Does Kogo have enough? Ngeno checking a couple of times behind him, but he'll be relieved and encouraged by what he's seeing, because the gap, if anything to me, not that we've got the scientific measurements out, but it looks to me as though the gap has increased over the last couple of minutes, not shortened. But he's run a very, very sensible race. Stayed with the pack, and made a move. Felt that he had the beating of his compatriots and rivals. So far, it's proving so. Kogo and Kipsang, neither of them really moving fast enough to close the ground on the leader. It might be that they've both settled to get into a race for silver and bronze. Kogo just in front at the moment, the number 9, and looks to be moving a little more easily than his rival. But may have just a fraction more left in the tank for the closing couple of kilometres. Moving round the back side of Piazza Venezia and the monument to Vittorio Emanuele II, the first king of unified Italy, following the reunification in 1861. Again, plenty of history for the casual runners to marvel at. These are not casual runners, these are professional athletes, and they've got a job to do, and Ngeno so far has done it to perfection. There's another little check of the watch. He's not going to beat the record, which stands at 2:06:24. But as he comes up to what looks like a miniature Colosseum, it's actually the Teatro Marcello. Quite often see tourists getting off a bus and assuming they're at the Colosseum and have to be redirected. Extraordinary building in its own right, Teatro Marcello. And then down towards, past the Bocca della Verità, the mouth of truth, popular Italian tourist destination. It's actually an old Roman manhole cover, nothing more exciting than that, but its legend has grown over the years. Put your hand in and say something, and if it bites your hand off, you were telling a lie. If it doesn't bite your hand off, you were telling the truth. Well, the truth here is that Robert Ngeno is almost certainly going to win the Rome Marathon. And the battle for second is an interesting one, but Joshua Kogo, at the moment, the 37-year-old, has the advantage over Brian Kipsang, who's 7 years younger. Kipsang on target for a second consecutive podium finish here. He came second last year, currently third. The church tower there you can see is the church where the Bocca della Verità is housed. So we're coming up to the Circus Maximus. Just start to see the green. And Kipsang has gone back in front of Kogo, so that's an excellent effort from Kipsang, because he was really breathing through his teeth for a few kilometers. He's found something. Found another little level. Well, there's time for a wave as he comes in. And he knows it. And as he comes towards the finishing line, all the plaudits for the number 15, Robert Ngeno of Kenya, who has won in truly splendid style. Excellent performance. Stuck with the leading group, looked comfortable, and then made his mark. And Brian Kipsang comes second to match his performance last year. And Joshua Kogo, also of Kenya, Kenyan 1, 2, 3 here this year, comes third shortly afterwards. And number 8, Frederick Kibi, comes fourth. But the podium belongs to Kenya. In fact, Kibi is also Kenyan. Utter dominance by the athletes from Kenya this afternoon, or this morning I should say. And Sherop, who's done a brilliant, he's run a brilliant race. If you followed it, he's lost touch 3, maybe 4 times with the leading group, and each time he's dragged himself back in, he's dragged himself back up with them and in contention. He lost contention towards the end there, but he's going to come across in 5th place, and he thoroughly deserves the applause that he'll get, because it was clear that a few times he could have thrown in the towel, and he's kept going. And he's run splendidly well, and he's beaten his personal best, I believe, coming into the race. Yes, 2 hours 10:58 was his PB. He's beaten that. Hamilton Sherop. And then Samuel Kiptu, who came 6th in Rome last year, matches his performance. And as we move our attention back to the women's race, and the leading athlete is Selam Jebre Fente, 22-year-old Ethiopian. She's, again, check over the shoulder, but she's a long way clear of her closest rival. I'm just trying to see in the distance if it's still Betty Chepkwony. One would assume it is. Chepkwony, the winner here in 2023, but she's going to have to go some to match that, as Jebre Fente moves clear of her. And a nice shot of the 1, 2, 3 here in Rome. Robert Ngeno, Brian Kipsang, Joshua Kogo. .42 kilometers and 195 meters. And they barely look out of breath. Another athlete crossing the line here. Number 4, Luke Kiprop, who was the leader early on, as we get to see some, the moment, the big moment, crossing the finishing line. A smile he permits himself creeps across the face. The gesture. And how happy must he be feeling in that moment. The training pays off. The tactics worked. The body responded as it was supposed to respond to his every whim. And victory is his here in Rome. Well, he's not quite a gladiator. Those days have gone. But he's performed magnificently, and we are entertained. And Daniele Meucci crosses the line as the leading Italian athlete. He's outside his personal best by 5 minutes or so, but he won't mind too much. He's the leading Italian in the race, and he's run very, very well. He's going to allow himself a few moments to recover, of course, but it's another solid performance by this veteran athlete, 39 years of age now. Italian champion in the past in the 10,000 metres 3 times, twice in the 5,000 metres, a splendid distance runner. And at the age of 39, still capable of running a pretty impressive marathon time. Didn't see the exact time, but somewhere around 2 hours 12, 2 hours 13 perhaps. Plenty to be proud of for Meucci. And back to the women's race, where the pacemaker is still trying to encourage her along. That's Andrew Kiputu Kosgei, who's been with the leading women all the way. Very clear indications he's giving her. And Chepkwony has closed the gap a little. That's interesting. That's interesting. The other pacemaker has dropped back, Jean-Baptiste Simukeka, to run with Chepkwony, and the gap has closed. Ooh, this is getting interesting here in the women's race. For several kilometers, it looked as though Salem Gebrefente was gone. She was away, and she's just started to slow. She started to slow, and Betty Chepkwony, who won here in 2023, has bided her time and has more left in the tank. Oh, well, well, well. Her pacemaker has done her a big favour here. Kept with her, encouraged her, pulled her along, and Chepkwony obviously knew what she was doing. She's kept more in the tank. She maybe felt that her younger rival, 22, had gone too soon. Chepkwony at 29 has got more races in the legs, more experience in the head. And she maybe realised she's gone early, the girl. And I'm just going to pot her along, keep her in my sights, and move when I need to move, and when I feel the time is right, and she's done that. Now, what does her younger rival have to say in response? Confirmation on the screen of what I've mentioned a few times, that Chepkwony was the winner here 2 years ago, looking to become only the 3rd woman to win this race more than once. Well, well, well. Experience pays, eh? It's not over yet, of course. Salem Gebrefente may have something left in the tank, but the gap between them is increasing here. And 29-year-old Betty Chepkwony of Kenya, who was once ranked in the top 150 or so female marathon runners in the world. She slipped down that list in the last few years. But she's a fine athlete. She's already proved that in her career. Another one of the male elite athletes has just crossed the finishing line. It was David Tumo of Kenya. Comfortably outside his personal best, but a solid finish nonetheless. But most eyes now on Betty Chepkwony, who came 9th in Frankfurt towards the end of last year, 8th in Istanbul back in 2021, 2nd in Sofia, Sofia, I should say, beg your pardon for the mispronunciation, Sofia, in 2019. Solid runner. And didn't panic when her younger rival pulled away. Coming through the centre of rope. She'll move back round down the main road towards Piazza Vittorio. And the pacemaker with her is Jean-Baptiste Simukeka. Simukeka actually ran the men's race last year and came 12th. A time of 2:24.39. Stepping into the pacemaker role for the women this year. Running round Piazza Navona. And they'll come out back onto the main drag towards Largo Argentina and Piazza Vittorio. Nine women started the elite section of this race. 3 of them very quickly disappeared from sight. The early group was made up of 6 women plus the pacemakers and a few other male athletes. We didn't check back in with the women's race as much as perhaps we could have done, so it was difficult to know quite the order of things, when people dropped out, when people pushed further ahead, but gradually the men that were running around the women's group disappeared, possibly pushing further on. Excellent male athletes pushing further on, or athletes that perhaps couldn't quite keep up with the top women and dropped off. The women dropped from 6 to 4, from 4 to 3, from 3 to 2. And then Selan Gebrefente pushed for home, but she had gone too early. She had gone too early. There's a huge round of applause here at the finishing line as Luca Parisi, 34-year-old local athlete, one of Italy's best marathon runners, obviously, as well, but he's a Roman, runs for the Lazio Athletics Club, crosses the line. Just over 40.5 kilometers run for Betty Chepkwony. And to the naked eye, the gap between Chepkwony and Gebrefente has increased still further. Now it's just a case of seeing whether she can push on and what time she can achieve. I don't think she's going to beat her personal best, which she set here when she won in 2023. Far to go and not enough time to do it, but that's not necessarily a surprise. The women have been running behind the course record pace pretty much since the beginning, and the course record, remember, was set by Alemo Megetu, who has gone on to be one of the leading marathon runners in the world. She was a younger woman then, but set a very quick time here and then has gone on to have success at world level, including twice being on the podium in the London Marathon, which is one of the big seven major marathons of the world: London, Tokyo, Boston, Sydney, New York, Chicago, Berlin. Betty Chepkwony came close in 2023. But she's not going to be as close this year. However, the most important thing as far as she's concerned is that barring something extraordinary, she's going to win. Around the back of the monument to Vittorio Emanuele II. It's well worth visiting if you're here. The Romans often aren't particularly enthusiastic about it. It's sort of a little incongruous with the rest of the buildings in that square. They sometimes refer to it as the wedding cake or the typewriter. But it is an extraordinary building in its own right, even if it does look a little odd sat amongst the older buildings at the end of the Roman Forum, the Trajan markets and amazing places like that. However, another one of the leading male athletes crosses the line. It's Samuel Kibet of Uganda, making his marathon debut. So that will automatically be installed as his personal bests. I made it 2:23.19. Possibly a second or so either side, but we'll get some official confirmation of that, and more importantly, Samuel Kibet will get some official confirmation of that. He ran 1 hour and 50 seconds in the Lille half marathon last year. But the stage is now set at Circus Maximus for Betty Chepkwony, the 29-year-old Kenyan, to double up the winner here in 2023. And surely now the winner here in 2025. 2 women have won this marathon on 3 occasions. I wonder if she'll be tempted to come back next year and have another go. The applause starts to pick up as she moves down towards the mouth of truth, the Bocca della Verità, which is housed in the church, whose tower you can see there in the kind of red-brown brick. And you'll get the first glimpse of Circus Maximus. And Betty Chepkwony will get a glimpse of it as she turns. She'll see the grass on the verges, and she knows she's there. She knows the course, she knows the city. And she can relax. She's comfortably ahead of her rival. She's been with the leading group since the beginning. She's led on a few occasions, and she's going to lead now, and her pacemaker gallantly steps aside to allow her to complete the final 100 meters or so by herself. And here she comes towards the line. There's a friendly wave to the crowd. And Betty Chepkwony has won the marathon here for the second time. I made it 2:26.16. We'll wait for some official confirmation of that, but she's done splendidly well, particularly when her rival Jebrefente pushed for home a little too early. Chepkwony didn't panic. She kept up a steady pace. She gradually ate into the lead, took over, and ran the last 3 or 4 kilometers by herself in comfortable style. Excellent, excellent performance. Just noticing in the background that there's an athlete on a stretcher. I hope he's okay. Didn't recognize which one it was. It might have been Samuel Kibet. We'll try and keep you posted on that if we can. But here's the moment for Chepkwony. Proudly waves the Kenyan flag. How many times has that flag been waved at distance running events around the world? An extraordinary production line of brilliant athletes. And Selam Jebrefente, 22 years of age. Well, this is one to chalk off to experience. Her personal best suggested that she wasn't really a contender. Maybe 10 kilometers from the end, she pushed. She felt she had the beating of her older rival. She didn't. She couldn't maintain that pace. The lead was gradually eroded. But she is going to smash her personal best. And considering her age, 22, there's plenty more to come, one would imagine, from this fine young athlete, Selam Jebrefente, who crosses the line in 2:28.23, maybe. Again, we'll wait for official confirmation of that, but it's more than 2 minutes off her personal best, which she had set in Linz in 2023. I beg your pardon, in 2:30.30 was her personal best, which she set in Daegu in 2023, not Linz. Well done. Now we turn our attention to perhaps the question of who may come third. Now, the last we looked at the women's race, and we saw 3 athletes. The third placed athlete was Rebecca Kangogo, 32-year-old Kenyan. But when Selam Jebrefente and Betty Chepkwony moved away, we kind of lost touch with who was 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and the rest of them. So I'm as interested as everybody else, and to find out which of the ladies will cross the finishing line in 3rd place. In the meantime, Filippi has crossed the line for the men. And another very good performance. A few of the outstanding amateur athletes are coming across for the men now, 2:29, 2:30. And there's the moment for Betty Chepkwony crossing the finishing line. Big smile and a well-deserved moment of celebration for the 29-year-old who doubles up following her triumph 2 years ago. Well, there was a big gap between 1st and 2nd. And there's an even bigger gap, I think, between 2nd and 3rd. Just trying to zone in. I don't think... perhaps that's Kangogo. Yes, that's Kangogo in the red vest. So unless there's a surprise just round the corner behind her, Rebecca Kangogo is going to finish on the podium. The 32-year-old Kenyan who came 2nd in Vienna back in 2017, who's had injury problems since then, has slightly derailed what could have been a very good career. But she's going to come across. And well done to Rebecca Kangogo, trailing in behind Chepkwony and Jebrefente. She won't have much time to recover before there'll be the presentation ceremony. Her personal best was 2:24.25, so she was outside that, but nonetheless, very, very solid performance and a podium finish for the 32-year-old Kenyan. And we'll get an official look at the 1, 2, 3 in a moment as some more very fine athletes cross the finishing line from the men's race. Some distance behind the leaders, of course, but nonetheless, times to be proud of, and hopefully a few of them have beaten their personal bests. We get a few more beauty shots. Castel Sant'Angelo. And here's the 1, 2, 3 for the women. Betty Chepkwony, Selam Jebrefente, as the rain starts to come down. Well, we wondered if the leading athletes were going to be able to escape the rain. They were, but hopefully it stays away for the rest of the race. It's not looking promising though. Lots of the amateur athletes are going to get drenched, but the leading athletes are all smiles, and so they should be. They've done very, very well to come first, second, third in the 2025 men's marathon here in Rome, men's and women's marathon here in Rome. Well, if you're just tuning in, a reminder that the men's race was run by Robert Ngeno, second Brian Kipsang, third Joshua Kogo, all Kenyan athletes. In the women's race, Betty Chepkwony there in the pink bib wins for the second time. Selam Jebrefente was second, and Rebecca Kangogo came third. Splendid performances all. The women's race in particular was very, very intriguing towards the closing stages as we get an official look at the top 10. Two Italians in the top 10. But the number one position, the most important position, goes to Robert Ngeno. 8 Kenyan athletes in the top 10. Extraordinary dominance by the East African nation. And Ngeno adds his name to what the Italians call the Alba d'Oro. We won't be able to look at the top 10 female athletes just yet because not 10 of them have crossed the line. I think we've had I don't even think we've had the fourth one yet. There's been a big gap. We get a lovely shot of Circus Maximus from the air, and we do get a top 4, I beg your pardon. Yulitea Tanui has crossed the finishing line, but the glory goes to Betty Chepkwony. The Kenyan winning in 2 hours, 26 minutes and 17 seconds, over 2 minutes in front of her closest rival. A gap of further 5 to Rebecca Kangogo, who crossed for third place. Congratulations to all of the athletes taking part, all 28,000 of you. I hope you run your personal best. It's not going to be easy as the rain starts to come down a little more heavily now, but hopefully a few of you will beat your PBs. I want to thank you for joining us here in the Italian capital. We've had 4 seasons in one day, really, haven't we? Not quite, but feels like it with the rain now shedding down after such a bright start. Well, as the camera pans around Circus Maximus for so long, the arena for games and events now the finishing stretch of the Rome Marathon. And the crowd's dispersing a little as the rain continues and gets a little harder. But we've had a fantastic time here in the Italian capital. To sum up, Robert Ngeno, Brian Kipsang, Joshua Kogor, 1, 2, 3 in the men's race. Betty Chepkwony, Selam Gebrefente and Rebecca Kangogo, 1, 2, 3 in the women's race. And I thank you for joining us here. Hopefully you'll be tuning in next year. Robert Ngeno crossing the line for victory in the Run Rome ACEA Marathon 2025. Offering thanks the months of training paying off. And we get a shot of Rebecca Kangogo, who came third in the women's race. The typical gesture. Second, Selam Gebrefente, who pushed for home too early and couldn't maintain the lead and was reeled in by her more experienced rival Betty Chepkwony, who crossed the line as the victor for the second time here in the Italian capital. Excellent performance by Chepkwony, who didn't panic when her younger rival made the break. Kept up a solid pace, recognised that she had it within herself to reel her in, and she did. And then she made the break. And Salem Gebrefente had no response. Excellent performance by Betty Chepkwony. Well, now the rain is coming down quite hard. We thought it might come. We hoped it wouldn't. So it's going to slow things down. The guys in your picture here are very close to the finishing line. They're just round the corner from the Bocca della Verità and coming into the top end of Circus Maximus, so they'll be crossing the line. But there are thousands and thousands of runners much further back down the course, of course, who are going to be getting rather wet. And we're going to go to the closing ceremony, the award ceremony, in just a few moments, as the rain continues down. Reasonably steady stream of athletes now coming down the closing 100 or so meters. the elite athletes have completed the race, of course, but these are still very fine amateur athletes running for personal bests, running for their teams perhaps. Some of them perhaps running for charity. Lots of money gets raised over a weekend like this. There was a fun run yesterday that raised a lot of money for some very, very good causes. As we wait for what has been a slightly delayed start to the official awards ceremony, but should be with us in just a moment. The 1, 2 and 3, appropriately enough, of course, in Roman numerals on the podium. Not sure that young man was supposed to be wandering across the shot there, but there you go. Not quite sure, to be perfectly honest with you, what the delay is. Possibly the weather has set things back a little bit. Some of the equipment was out. It was nice and sunny this morning when things started, so perhaps some of the technical equipment has been has got wet and has had to be shifted, or things have been a little slower than intended. The race was supposed to start at 8 o'clock and then was shifted to 8:15, and the athletes didn't get going until 8:20. The wheelchair athletes started proceedings at 8:05. It never fails to impress me that the joy and relief on the faces of everyone who completes a marathon. That moment when they get across the line, the moments building up to that when they come down the final stretch, there's a final push, the end is in sight, and then a private little celebration for some of them. Well, East African domination in the race continues. No real surprise there. Men's race, Kenyans have now won 16 times since 1995, Ethiopia 10. In the women's race, Ethiopia leads the way, but Kenya today recorded their 7th win, with Betty Chepkwony moving ahead of Italy with 6. Extraordinary aerial shots of this city. An open-air museum, essentially. So much to see and do, culturally, artistically, historically. Some images from the start. That was at 8:20. The leading men's group pounding round by the pyramid. Shots moving very quickly, of course. The men's group started off with 12 athletes, dropped to 10, went back up to 11. The women started with 6 plus the pacemakers, and then dropped to 4, 3, and then 2 and 1. It was a very exciting race in the women's section. The men's race, it was a very, very splendid performance by Robert Ngeno, who just timed his move very well, crossing the line for victory. Just trying to deal with a few technical issues here as the rain leaks into our commentary spot and is attempting to drench all of the equipment. There's no official input as to why the award ceremony, the official award ceremony, has been delayed. the male and female athletes who came first, second and third have been given a medal, but that was done straight after the completion of the race, more or less. But we are still awaiting for an official presentation, and that's a little late. Be interesting to see whether we can actually squeeze that in before the end of our transmission, as we look at the Flavian Amphitheatre, better known, of course, more simply as the Colosseum, the model for every sports stadium that's ever been built since, essentially. 60,000 people, more or less, in and out in the course of 15 minutes at its height. The Arch of Constantine and a look over some of the Roman Forum, moving towards the modern centre, more modern centre. It's nothing in the centre of Rome is particularly modern apart from a few of the shops. Well, I don't know that there can be many marathons in the world that have a more dramatic backdrop than this one, can there? Venice, maybe. Florence, possibly. Paris, maybe. Rome is certainly up there. And it does appear now as though we're going to move into place for the official awards ceremony for the men and the women, leading 3 athletes from each race. The stream of athletes, mostly male athletes at the moment, crossing the line. 2 hours 48, 2 hours 49, more or less, given their finishing time. Nice collection of supporters here for the 3 Kenyan athletes who will stand on the podium in a moment. Kipsang, Ngeno and Kogo. Ngeno in the middle was the winner. If you're just joining us, just tuning in, Kipsang on the left was second, and Joshua Kogo was third, waving to the crowd now. Well, fortunately, the heavy rain of 10 minutes or so ago has slowed a little. In the men's race, Robert Ngeno came in as one of the 12 or so elite athletes, but there were at least half a dozen men with a personal best faster than his, so he wasn't among the immediate favourites. He stuck with the leading group all the way round, and as the group gradually whittled from 12 to 11 to 10 to 8 to 6, he was there. To 4, he was there. And then when he felt the moment was right, he pushed away. And none of his rivals had enough left in the tank to make much of an impression as he moved away faster, lengthened the gap between him and the men behind him, timed his movements really, really well, and again, really, really well. It was a very, very sensibly run race. It was never going to be the fastest time. The first 5K were quick. The first 10K were pretty quick. After that, things slowed down a bit, became a little bit more tactical. The 2 fastest men in the race on paper were left trailing Abdeladou Mamou never really appeared with the leading group. And Luke Kiprop, who led early on for 10 minutes or so, fell away in the final third of the race. And we're about to have the official presentation of the 1, 2, 3 in the Rome Marathon here. We're a little behind schedule, but things do now seem to be moving in the right direction again. And the rain has stopped. Oh, that's nice. In the women's race, Betty Chepkwony triumphed for the second time following her win in 2023. Salam Jebrefente was second. Looked for a while as though she might win, but it turned out she'd pushed for home too soon. And she was reeled back in by her more experienced rival. And Rebecca Kangogo came third, a fairly distant third, it must be said, but nonetheless, a place on the podium. More than 50,000 people have taken part over the course of the weekend. Fun run yesterday, the marathon today, a few other events that have been organised. They've mostly been blessed with decent weather. This is the largest marathon in terms of number of competitors in Italy. It's an Italian record, 28,000 we're told. It was just over 18,000 last year, so it's a pretty big increase from just a year ago. And last year's was the Italian record for the number of competitors. So the Rome Marathon really gaining some traction with athletes, professional and amateur alike. More than 140 countries represented here. People have travelled from all over the world to run here in this wonderful city. I'm sure many of them have extended their stays to make a little holiday of it, take in some of the sights. Don't have a huge amount of time to enjoy them as you're pounding around the 42k of the course. And we are now getting the official presentation for the men. Confirmation of third place for Joshua Kogo. Little bit of confusion there between the gentlemen who were presenting the prize. A few official photos and a well-earned round of applause for the athlete. 37 years of age, Joshua Kogo. Most of his best results in marathons have come later in his career. Fourth in Vienna a couple of years back. Fourth in Mumbai last year. Second place for Brian Kipsang, 30-year-old Kenyan, who came second last year. So a disappointing double, perhaps, in some sense, for Kipsang, who would have wanted to go one better this year. But nonetheless, an impressive second place for a second year in a row. And it's not often in the men's race here that athletes manage multiple podium finishes. Just double checking, he might even be the first. And the king of Rome, at least in the marathon, is Robert Ngeno of Kenya. Presentation in both Italian and English, and here it is. Victory for Ngeno in a beautifully run, tactically astute race. Moved away from the competitors, remaining at just the right moment, sensed that they didn't have quite enough in the tank to follow, and had called it correctly. 2 hours, 7 minutes, 36. A personal best for Ngeno. I wonder if he'll be back next year to defend his crown. The athlete himself at this point probably just wants to get off the podium and go and grab some lunch. But there's a few more duties to carry out first. I mentioned the prize money for the athletes. It's the same amount, male and female. The prize money is assigned, obviously, and the results are ratified after what we hope is just the formality of the drug tests. Make sure that everyone comes through clean, and hopefully they will. As we get, it's a turtle. I hadn't realised, I have to be honest with you, I Hadn't seen the mascot before the race. I just saw it at the closing ceremony there. As we wait now for the official award ceremony for the women. And in third place, representing Kenya, 32-year-old Rebecca Kangogo. The runner-up in the women's event, 22 years of age, so a promising marathon career ahead of her, one would hope. Selam Jebrefente of Ethiopia. Two hours 28:22, if I heard the stadium announcer correctly, which beats her personal best. Seemed to have a little problem climbing up onto the step there. She had no problem negotiating more than 42 kilometers of road race, but the step caused her a little hiccup. She could smile about it. Second place, a very, very fine performance from the younger athlete. But the winner, and the winner for the second time here in the Italian capital, is the 29-year-old Kenyan Betty Chepkwony. Two hours 26:16 is the official time, I'm being told. And Betty Chepkwony as well, also having a little difficulty climbing onto the highest podium to celebrate the win. Well, she deserves to celebrate the win. She ran really, really smartly. Was part of the women's group all the way around and refused to panic when she was left in second place by Jebrefente's push for home, which came sort of 10-12 kilometers from the end, but Chepkwony ran within herself, reeled her younger rival slowly back in and went past her and never looked back, beat her in the end by just over 2 minutes. So well done to all three of the athletes, well done to all of the athletes taking part, especially those who complete the course. But the glory, of course, goes to the podium finishes. Chepkwony, Jebrefente and Kangogo for the women. Ngeno, Kipsang and Kogo for the men this year. We'll be back next year, and I hope you'll be back to join us. Perhaps you'll even take part. Perhaps you've been inspired by the backdrop of this remarkable city to come and join us in Rome for the Rome Marathon 2026. Certainly hope so.
Fori imperiali anche, oltre che con i palloncini dei Pacers, che sono coloro che...
Microfono numero 2. Ok, meglio. 2. Microfono numero 2. Sì, prova.
And with the fifth number 15 from Kenya, is Robert Angelo, winner of è un'iterza lui, mette la bandiera, Green for
cori imperiali anche, oltre che con i palloncini dei Pacers, che sono coloro che...
Microfono numero 2. Ok, meglio. 2. Microfono numero 2. Sì, prova.
The man race now is the Piazza Navona, kilometer 49, kilometer... Tabellone all'arco d'arrivo segna ormai 2 ore e 05. Siamo a 60 secondi dal record della gara, che possiamo ormai dirlo, non verrà. Toccano le 2 ore e 07, da adesso configurati di
And with the fifth number 15 from Kenya.